You are listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey, you listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey y'all, you're listening to the Debug Podcast.
Okay, hi Damon. Appreciate you taking the time to join our Debug System podcast and spending some moments with us to give us a sense of what it's like at Ground Zero in Minneapolis and St. Paul in Minnesota with the assault from ICE and how the community's surviving this and how the community's fighting back and how you're working to protect your people. So thank you again, given what's happening all around you. For folks that are tuning in and watching this, we are honored to have Damon Drake on the podcast of the We Resolve Participatory Defense Hub in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area in Minnesota, to give us a glimpse from the ground of what it's like over there, what families and communities are doing to protect each other, and also maybe just get some insight about what is it that those of us outside of Minnesota that watch the videos, that see the news, like what is it that we're also still not getting that we think would be important? And any other way that we could support for any lessons that you all would have for other communities that may be on a short list of being targeted in the same way. So Damon, thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad, that you guys are checking in with us, and we appreciate you, just checking in to make sure that we're okay here. And it's a tough time. It's a tough time for us. And even last month, I was a part. They did a raid here, not far from my home, and I was out, and they tear gas. There's a reverend that was next to me, and so it's been going on here for a while. Of course, things have gotten worse with the murder of Renee Good and the gentleman who was just murdered over the weekend. So it seems like things have heightened here. I think I want to cover what maybe the last part of what you said about what maybe people don't get about what's happening here, and some of the background. So Minneapolis and the Twin Cities, folks have been protesting over the murders of folks like Jamar Clark, Philando Castillo, and of course, about George Floyd. But the assault on the community has been going on for quite some time. This is assault from a different area and a different arena, but the assault has been going on for a very long time. So even to take sides with the state or take sides with the federal government, both. I remember there's a saying from Malcolm X is like, you take your case from the state government to the federal government. It's like taking it from the fox to the wolf, So either way, we haven't had really good success here with dealing with police being held accountable for these same kind of brutality and things that have been happening for a very long time here in the Twin Cities. So of course, this is at a different level and from a different area, but it's been going on for a very long time. So that's
that was something that we've been kind of having a conversation at Debug here. Exactly what you're saying, which is, seeing the murder of Alex Preddy, Renee Good, was shocking the conscience of the country, what they saw. But for those of us that have been fighting against police lethality and police killings, it actually felt very familiar. And the tools and tactics communities have used to get accountability or protect themselves from state-sanctioned violence by police seems like it'd be very similar to responding to the same violence, maybe just fired from a different gun, which is ICE agents.
Yeah, exactly. That is so that's it's hard to get in the streets and it's the same thing, but it seems like there's a different community that's being impacted now,
How
right? So
so? Yeah.
there are white folks being
Hmm.
killed, and that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Um, um, so that impacts the way other people see it because now they see themselves in Renee Good. They see themselves in this gentleman who was just murdered. In the same way that we saw, Philando Castillo
Right.
and George Floyd, we saw ourselves in them. So now they get a chance to see themselves in the same situation and being impacted by state violence in the same way. So I think that's the different way that I think is affecting not only the local folks, but nationally too. So now nationally, folks are saying, "Wait a minute, now you've gone too far, right? This is not
Hmm.
what we wanted."
Right.
So I think
Yeah.
that's a part of it. So
Yeah.
and the other thing you were asking about the stuff that we're doing. So we're trying to assist families who can't get out, who can't get food, who need to get their kids to school, all those kind of different things. We're trying to be involved in that, trying to be involved in networks to make sure that communities and families are supported in the best way that we can. We're not a big group, but we try to be involved wherever we can. And we're also out protesting. We're strategizing with the other local nonprofits and organizations to try to figure out what's the best way that we could fit in and be effective. And lastly, we continue to do what we do every week. So at 6 o'clock tonight, we're gonna have a meeting with families that are still going through the criminal legal system, that are still dealing with this continuing onslaught of assault from the state. So we'll be
Yeah.
fighting and strategizing with families weekly, like we always do.
Yeah.
So that's a part of what we're doing here. And if there's something that comes up, we were a part of this big march that they did on Friday.
Hmm.
It was 30, wind chill was 30 below. And they said it hadn't been that cold in Minnesota in 7 years. So,
Mm.
but
That's saying something.
there were 50,000 people who showed
Mm.
up. We were out there too.
That
So
was that was that general strike you were telling me about.
yeah, they had a general strike. So hundreds of businesses shut down. Like I said, 50,000 people showed
Wow.
up. So
That's
it was a really a big, it was a big show of hope. But unfortunately, the next morning, the gentleman got murdered,
that's
got
right. Yeah.
executed the next day.
Yeah.
So it took the wind out of our sails.
Mm.
So that's part of what we're doing here. You also know
Yeah.
about the professor or the Nakima Levy Armstrong, who was arrested
Right.
protesting in the church.
Yeah.
She is an admirer of mine. I'm an admirer of hers.
I'm sure
Has
it's mutual. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, well, I don't know. I won't go that far. So, but she is definitely a community leader here. And in all of those cases that I talked about, the police brutality cases and things like that, she is one of the leaders that has been speaking out for years here.
Hmm.
So we're definitely supporting her and Chantel Allen. Who is also leading in slavery campaign here in the state of Minnesota to get rid of the 13th Amendment in our state constitution to end slavery. So these are really sincere, you know, tried and true
Hmm.
activists in our communities, and we're supporting them,
Yeah,
as best we can also.
absolutely. I mean, the movement looking out for each other, yeah, as they try to take out who they think are pivotal voices.
Yeah.
Um, could Damon, could you kind of just paint us a picture of what daily life is like for families in Minneapolis now? Like, how has the daily routine changed? And like for a parent taking their kids to school or when you're driving around, like what is it how different is it? And what is it that maybe we don't see just when we look at these little video clips?
Well, I think part of it is that there are a lot of people that aren't going to school. So right now they're instituting where folks can learn from home, video learning. So families that don't feel safe, they just also instituted that at the university level. So the University of Minnesota just said, if you don't feel safe coming to the campuses, you can try to figure out what they can do online. So that's the first part of it. So there are some families that are not leaving the house because they're so fearful of what's going to happen. That affects, every business. I'm not going to
Mm,
say every business, but a lot of businesses, and everybody's on edge. Everybody's looking over their shoulder. Um, Depending on the neighborhood in which you live in, if there's a high concentration of immigrants in your community, there's a high probability that ICE agents are circling that area. We have folks that are also like doing patrols that are standing
hmm.
out in front of schools or standing out in some of those areas that they know that ICE might be. Um, I'm a Muslim, so I think the one of the mosques that I went to last Friday in St. Paul, there were volunteers that, I've never seen these people before. You could tell they weren't Muslim. It's like
Mm,
older white ladies that, had their
hmm.
their vest on that were just out there, patrolling. So it's really brought together a large group of folks that maybe would never have collaborated before.
Mm,
Um, so I think that's part of the good thing. There's also some of the bad stuff, man. So some of the bad stuff is trying to get different communities to put their guards down and to be able to work with other community and recognize that we have a common enemy or a common oppressor. We a lot of folks have some old grudges,
yeah,
and have some old animosities about things that have happened in the
yeah,
past. Um, Being able to communicate and let people know that we need to put that aside for now. We have a
yeah,
common enemy,
right.
that
Yeah,
is that is, coming full force at us. We
yeah,
we don't have any, we don't have the numbers or the time to debate, what you did
sure.
in 1983, and you
Right.
remember you guys
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys didn't stand up for us, and this, it's just not the time for that.
yeah.
There should be a time for that, but right now is not that time. So
Hmm.
being able to convince community, in a lot of different places,
Yeah,
that's advantageous to all of us if we could take that mindset.
yeah. And I'm assuming, selecting what tactics a community uses probably ranges in spectrum as well, right? Like what people
Yeah,
are willing to do.
yeah. So even this thing with the church situation, and Nakima going into the church. There are a lot of folks that are maybe don't approve of that aspect.
Hmm.
But I just had a conversation with a young man today because he put something on Facebook, and I've known him for a long time. And I'm like, hey, we need to have a conversation. And once we had this conversation, I just letting him know that we have common oppressor,
Yeah.
and we the this common oppressor is so big, right, that it's going to take us coming at it at all kinds of different angles,
Right.
right? My angle might not be your angle, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I need you going at it the same, going at it as
Yeah.
hard from your end as I'm going at it from my end,
Right.
and you can't afford me criticizing you how you going at it, and I can't afford you criticizing me how I'm going at it. So if we get that kind of understanding, man, and that mindset, maybe we can get some movement. But as
Yeah.
long as we're like count no grudges and criticizing the way you doing it, if you really
Mm-hmm.
should have done it this way, or and the worst part is the folks who are doing nothing and they criticize them. You
Yeah.
know, but you shouldn't be doing any
Yeah.
criticism.
Yeah. Got not much right when you're standing on the sidelines like that.
Yeah.
Um, I just had two questions I wanted to go over with you. One was, I've been, this thing's moving and changing rapidly every day. There's a new kind of dimension to this. Um, and so now as us recording this, there was news of Tim Walz having conversation with, I forget the guy's name, Tim Holland or something like that. Tom Holland, with someone from that kind of ICE infrastructure thing.
Okay. Okay.
And then Trump put out something saying, "Oh, I've spoken with Waltz, and we're getting to be on the same page," or something like that. Like this, some sort of messaging about bringing down the volume. Um, and then I heard, and so they're supposed to talk to Jacob Fry and later today, and it seemed to be seems to be, whether it happens or not, some sort of corner being turned. And the thing that I thought was kind of alarming, kind of circles back to the work that you all did well before ICE, you know, dropped in parachutes down into Minneapolis, and will be doing after, which is supporting people that are targeted by the criminal court system, the criminal punishment system. And what I saw Tim Waltz say was, "Oh yeah, we are getting the worst of the worst out, and we do hand over people from our jails, and so you don't have that excuse anymore to run around." What's your sense of how the community in Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin City community, about this notion of some immigrants are okay to be targeted and deported because of their prior contact with the criminal punishment system versus all immigrants should be protected? Like, is that a conversation that you anticipate having to deal with
I
moving
think that's
forward?
yeah. I think that's the young man who put this stuff on the Facebook. He said, um, "I don't blame Trump for trying to get these illegals
Mm,
out of the community, right? I
hmm.
just don't like the way he's doing it." And I'm like, illegals? Which illegals you talking about, man? This is
Yeah,
stolen land.
right.
This is stolen land. So how do
Yeah,
who's illegal?
right.
So, but I think this is what other folks are gonna be like the default. Like, yeah, nobody wants people getting hit over the head, or folks getting raped, or people
Yeah,
having their houses broken into. No, nobody wants that, right?
right.
Um, so I think that there is going to be probably a larger or a harder enforcement on folks who do come in contact with the criminal legal system.
Mm,
Um, I don't think initially that wasn't the response. At least I know from some of the counties that they actually had collateral consequence
hmm.
put together. So like if they could do something with the charging, that it wouldn't put them in jeopardy of being deported, then they would work with them. Depending on
Yeah,
what the charge was, of course,
yeah.
depending on what the offense was, I guess. So I don't know if they're gonna be doing that now, because they're gonna be like, hey, we don't want the federal government coming in here saying we soft on crime. So one of the things that they were saying was that they already turn people over on the state level, right? So if somebody's being released, they did their state prison term, then they being released, they release them into ICE custody. No,
Mm,
it's always been like that. There's
yeah.
nothing, it's not like nobody's letting anybody out. But what they were saying is they want access to folks who are in the jails,
Yeah.
right? So folks who haven't even been charged or haven't gone through the
Convicted. Yeah.
process yet, they want access to them to be able to deport those folks. So that means that you are guilty, before you've even gone through the process,
Yeah.
and which is familiar also, right? Which is familiar. A lot of Black and brown folks have felt
Yeah.
that. Every day you ask them when you go into the system, the pretrial system, do you feel like you were treated like you were innocent?
Yeah.
Nobody
Right.
ever says, they're like, no, I felt like they treated me like I was, the worst
Right.
of the worst.
Yeah.
So I think that's more of how they're gonna be doing things. It's gonna be a little tougher. They want to have access to those folks. I don't see how they could legally
Yeah.
access those folks because they have not been convicted of anything.
Yeah. So that might be the fight, after
Yeah.
after the folks leave.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a very present fight for us here in California as well. Like we developed these policies, which is really just essentially saying, look, these are two different systems, and um, our local counties shouldn't be, coordinating or cooperating or being a conduit to ICE enforcement, which seems pretty reasonable. But with all these intimidation tactics, you don't know who's going to fold.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
Exactly.
and our community is going to pay the consequences of that. So we should stay connected on that fight, because I do anticipate, Damon, like what you're saying, like that was our struggle before this thing
Mhm.
was, headline news, and people knew about sort of where the nexus of police and ICE and prosecutors locally and the federal government come together. And I think that's going to be the fight when we move after. Um, the last question I wanted to ask was, maybe a self-centered one, which is a lot of us that are not in Minneapolis or St. Paul are watching this, and communities all across the country have already been dealing with ICE in various ways, um, and to different extents and extremes. But the the thought is, what if what we're seeing on our screens is going to happen in our backyard? And how should we respond, or how should we prepare? What kind of words of guidance, or just thoughts would you want to share with other communities who anticipate that we may be targeted next in the same way, that we could do to build up some measure of protection, or some connectivity that could kind of brace against what we're seeing happen in your community?
I don't know. Like I said, I think it's having those conversations about uh, a common enemy, and being able to really sit down and have that conversation, and having that be the center of the conversation, not being the old grudges and the dividing lines and those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things, that have really separated. It's just such an old trick, it seems like to me, this divide and conquer. It's like we
Yeah.
fall for it every time. It's like this, it's like this old cartoon type
Yeah.
situation that
Yeah.
we fall for it every time,
Yeah.
that they pull us apart because
Yeah.
they say, oh, remember what this guy said about you, and remember what he said about this, and remember that, and before you know it, we can't sit at the table together to look out for each other,
Yeah.
and we're the ones going to be left holding the bag regardless. Our communities are going to be the ones left with the shelves empty, with folks unemployed, with small businesses shutting down, with more people locked up that look like you and me. So it's no benefit for anyone, and it's a benefit for the system, every time. So for me, it's being able to do that, being able to connect with some of those. We already know who they're going after, right?
Mm-hmm.
We already know who those communities are. So being able to connect with those communities, They have like a signal group and stuff like that to be able to talk about they're in your area. We have folks that are patrolling to let people know that they're in your area, to be able to deliver food and stuff like I was saying, to be able to get kids back and forth, from school. All of those things you know, um, are valuable things. And it's tapping into some of these folks who have sat around and, at least in my experience, they all were at the March on Washington, you know what I'm saying? And they just really want to help. This is your chance
This is the
to help,
time.
right? Because your white face or your, retired self, and nobody's gonna be bothering you. So you
Yeah.
could drive the kids around, or you could go get groceries and stuff like that. Just in the same way that we try to get church folks and folks of faith in the courtroom. I
Yeah.
tell them, I said, look, you guys are probably sitting watching court TV at home. You could come watch
You could
court
you
right
could do a lot.
live.
Yeah.
You can sit
Yeah.
right here and watch court.
Yeah.
So, tapping into those maybe folks that haven't been tapped into before. This is your time. This is your time to let down the grudges too, and come together and really protect our people.
Damon, I feel like you're peering into my soul on that last bit of advice, because I definitely hold on to some grudges that have left me without communication with a lot of people.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
So
I feel you. I feel
so
you.
I gotta take that lesson to heart, and I will. And so I do really appreciate it, because I think it does help me recalibrate what is needed, and why this coming together, protect your people, is the ultimate kind of aim that we need to lean on as a tactic and a strategy.
Yeah, I think about this, man. It's not about me, and I know I got some, some grudges too, and some folks
Yeah.
that I don't want to work with.
Yeah.
But I think about that little boy, man. It's like a 5-year-old that they
Yeah.
took from here, And I'm like, man, if it's, who I won't talk to in order to be able to try to help that little boy out of his
That's a
situation.
good, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
man, if it's bigger than the stuff I got with you is that that ain't nothing, compared to this. So
Yeah.
that's what we need to be fighting for, and that's what we need to be standing up for and trying to figure out what we can do.
Man, that's a real way to look at it.
Yeah.
That helps me a lot. Thank you, Damien. So, we might tap in later if you're okay with that, just to see how you're doing.
Of course, man. Of course.
And for folks that might be watching this that just want to stay more connected with you and We Resolve, how can they kind of keep up with you all and what you all are doing?
Yeah. Oh man. See, now you're gonna put me on the spot. I know our website, man, right? So they can check us out at weresolve-mn.com. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and we have a YouTube channel.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't know about the YouTube channel.
I don't have any access or anything. I'm sure there's a video on there of me, but I don't know how it gets there. So
okay, hey, nothing wrong with little bit of effort to find you. Maybe it'll make it that much better.
No. If you go to our website,
okay,
right,
then we'll have all those.
It'll take you to everything. All right,
that's cool. All right, well, maybe this podcast we could have on your YouTube too.
Yeah. Somehow.
And I'll let you know.
Somehow.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks a lot, Raj.
Thank you, Damon.
You, man.
Really appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
To the Debug Podcast.
Hey, you listening to the Debug Podcast.
Hey y'all, you're listening to the Debug Podcast.